Jocelyn and I welcome vegetarians into our discussion today, even though meat is a big one on our favorites in this week's episode. But we're gonna go a lot deeper than dietary discussions today. We're actually sharing our own miscarriage experiences. And we're taking it a step further to explore the possibility of miscarrying the calling on our lives. Like, what does it look like to determine the message God has on our life? And what does it take to maintain ourselves for the individual mission or purpose that God has appointed each one of us? Jocelyn and I are incredibly honored that you're inviting us into your day. Okay, now, let's talk about it. Hello there, I'm Christine James.
And I'm Jocelyn DeWitt. And here's the thing. The God who created all the earth did not call you, set you apart, anoint you, and create you to live an ordinary life. He called you to live an extraordinary one.
Now, Jocelyn and I, we don't have PhDs. We don't have mega ministries. We're just two anointed ladies oversharing about living devoted in the dailies. Welcome to the conversation.
This is Devoted in the Daily.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Here we go. We're diving back in this week to the letter M.
M.
Here we go.
Yeah. So when it comes to the letter M, what are some of your favorite things, Jocelyn?
Well, the funny thing that we were just sitting, I was like, what do I like that's M? What's my favorite thing that's M? And I was like, oh, meat. And Christine was like,
That's a good one.
that's a good one. I ate vegan for a year, and so I have a whole new respect and love for meat than I had before.
Yeah, do you know that red meat has all the essential nutrients that your body needs?
I did, because when I was vegan, I had to take vitamins to supplement the fact that I wasn't eating red meat. And that's not to dog vegans. It's just saying,
yeah,
there is things in red meat that are good for you and nutritious and
so very tasty.
And I was gonna say, do you know her husband can smoke some meat? Like,
my husband has a love for meat as well.
he does, and he can. I benefit sometimes. Yes, it's very good. Love the meat. I make a lot of meat.
Music
is good.
It's good. Music is great.
It's great. I mean, yeah.
Music is fan-freaking-tastic.
Moms.
Yes.
Moms are good. Moms are sweet.
So music.
Oh, we're going to dive back into the music.
You just want to go right over my music.
I was just thinking. I didn't really think about this one, so I'm like thinking out loud. Music is good. Music is great. Music is such a gift and a blessing. And it's like, don't you just love
like expression of the soul?
Do you know what I love about music is there's like music out in the earth. Do you know what I mean?
That's fun.
Yeah.
You know, the different frequencies of the noises, of the wind, of the waves. That's kind of a cool thought.
That's what I was thinking about.
Well, yeah. And I was just thinking about how music can completely alter an environment.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. It has so much power.
There's so much power in music. And you know, I have to be careful about what music my kids are listening to, because it does. It has the power to shift things in our minds and in our spirits in
good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both ways. Very, very equally.
But I love, man, if it's a hard day, putting on some good worship music and shifting all the things within me.
All the things.
Music has the power to really help out with that.
I like maturity. I don't necessarily sometimes like the process, but the growth that comes from maturity. You know what I mean? I think that there's something to being reverent about with maturity.
Well, and just being around a mature person.
Yeah.
Just really.
And I think watching your kids even mature.
Yeah.
You know, there's something kind of bittersweet in it. Sad, but bittersweet.
I don't know.
I like the innocence. Sometimes I just like the innocence of them. I'm in that weird stage now where I'm like, they're maturing. And then how do you hold them at maturity, but also let the child, like, you know, it's kind of that fine kind of innocence dance.
Yeah.
But so, yeah.
Mountains.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. I
Oh,
love mountains.
She likes mountains more than music. I'm glad I hit a chord here.
Whatever.
She's ready to go right on over from the music. But here we go. I hit a chord for mountains.
Oh, well,
Tell us about mountains.
Well, I'm just thinking, like you just said music, so like music. And I was like, yeah, okay. I had to get in it, I guess.
Just giving you a hard time.
Yes, you are. I had to just get into it. But yeah, mountains. They're very harmonious to me.
Oh, so majestic.
Oh, throwing out all the words.
Majestic.
Miracles. I love miracles.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you can kind of see the miraculous, majestic magnificence of our Creator when you're at the bottom of a mountain or the top.
Or a part. You know what I really love? Okay, so we're in Idaho, and when I drive to Christine's house, every time I'm driving down the freeway, and all I see is the mountains that way in Montana. And I love Montana, but I was thinking, I just want to keep driving into the mountains into Montana, like all the M's that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see all the mooses. See what I did there?
Ooh, that's good.
Okay, so
about our
what we're thinking.
Yeah, we're gonna slide over now into a less fun topic of what we're thinking about.
Wow, that was engaging, and we're having a good time today. Can you not tell? We're like, let's slide. It's kind of like one of those topics, like, how do you talk about it? Let's talk about it. We know we're supposed to talk about it. It's an M word and it's heavy, but we want to invite you in the conversation as much as possible. And that is the topic of miscarriage. And we're going to bring two folds into this, but the first fold is that word.
We both have testimonies considering
a miscarriage
about miscarriages.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of women out there do.
And I think, and men too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Holy
Like,
cow,
let's
of
not.
Course. Sorry.
And I think for a while I kind of was like in my own mind thinking it's a woman thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it very much is. Men really grieve also in a different kind of way because they weren't the person. You know what I mean? But they have a loss also. So we're not negating you men, not even a little bit.
Not even a little.
We see you and we hear you. So miscarriages. So let's just dive in.
Yeah, you've had several, haven't you, Jocelyn?
I've had several that I know of. Like we were talking about the interesting thing about miscarriages, like you were saying.
Well, yeah, science has come so far that we can determine before we miss our period, I think, even if we're pregnant. You know, and something years and years ago that we might have just considered to be a heavy period that came late
or stress
we now know, that's a miscarriage. And so much there's just so much pressure and expectation that comes so early on these days.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I've had two. I had my first one a little over 13 years ago. Well, no, 14 years ago. And I'm trying to do the math in my head. So my oldest is almost 13, so that would be almost 14 years ago. And I smile because it was the first time I heard the Lord's voice.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the first time I heard the Lord's voice, was the day that I had my miscarriage. It was my first, and I had just gotten it confirmed, and I was just overjoyed. And I definitely wanted to be pregnant. That was always been a lifelong dream of mine. And I went outside. I remember I just was like, I'm going to sit out here and smoke a whole pack of cigarettes and just numb out and not think of it. And I was crying and sorrowful. And I heard the Lord clearly say, it is going to be okay and you will see. Just that simple. And it has stuck with me ever since. And then a lot of things happened and it was okay. And I got pregnant with my son. But my second miscarriage was after my son. And that one was much harder.
Yeah.
Much harder. Because I was so much farther along. I was 14 weeks along, and
Mm.
it was pretty traumatic, and I had announced it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a secret. It wasn't just between me. But it was pretty traumatic on my body, pretty traumatic on me emotionally. The experience was kind of traumatic, the
Yeah.
letdown, the hope deferred, the
Totally.
heartbreak.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and then I got pregnant with my daughter later on. So, and I have 2 more after that. So I've birthed 4 and been pregnant with 6. But it wasn't until about 3 years ago that the Lord was like, "Hey, it's time for us to talk about this and like heal," which is quite a long time after I've had my miscarriages, right? But I think that's the point I wanted to make in that is like in the midst of a miscarriage, the Lord knows the exact right time and is so close. And He knows how
Hmm.
I needed healing and when the right time was for me to heal.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you?
I've had one that I know of, and it was what made it particularly hard, I think, is that I didn't want to be pregnant. Like
Mm,
I really was upset that I got pregnant.
mm,
It was my second. My 2 boys were so close together. This was my 3rd pregnancy, and my youngest had just turned 1, and I was starting to just kind of feel normal again. And after having 2 toddlers that were so, I mean,
life changing at
they're
that point.
they're so close together, and my second was difficult as a baby.
Mm,
And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was just not happy. And so I kind of got myself to a place where I would be okay with it,
mhm, mhm.
and kind of embraced it a little bit more. And then we told my family, and part of my family was like, "What?"
So that's what
Like,
happens when you have more,
like,
go back to back.
yeah, when
Yeah.
you like, they're like, "You know what causes this, right?"
That's what we all hear when we have more than 2. It's
Anyway, so and then then there was lots of celebrating too,
yeah.
and then to have the miscarriage like happen like right after
Mm,
the announcement, and it was
mhm.
during a busy time, and I wasn't even able to anyway. Yeah, and that was really rough because coming from this place of okay, then feeling so guilty because I didn't
Yeah.
want it in the first place.
Yeah.
And just saying that is heartbreaking to me.
But I think that's a reality for I think some
Yeah.
moms really can relate to you in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then the crazy thing is I got pregnant a week later.
You did? A week later?
It's, I mean,
I was pretty close after mine too, but like wow.
I know, like, because it was so weird because I kept feeling like I was pregnant, and I'm like, well, so that even like the morning there was really hard too because I'm like, but my hormones were like all over the place, and then when we finally figured out that I was pregnant, I didn't think it was right away. Like,
Yeah.
I would. Well, after like we had been out of town when I had my miscarriage.
Oh.
And so I didn't get to go into the doctor till like 2 weeks after.
Mm.
And, she goes, okay, now pelvic rest for another 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Pelvic. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Clicks. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oops.
So that's past its point.
Like, think about that though until when we went for my 3rd pregnancy, went and got the ultrasound, and we're like, wait, I'm how far along?
Oh,
And I was
wow.
already far into my 2nd trimester.
So then you put the times together and realized,
Yes.
wow, isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy.
I'm like, sometimes I think in the middle of miscarriage, like we're trying to wrap our minds about like God in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Like, who is God? Where is God? What is God doing? And that was a big part of like my healing was I needed to understand like why. And he met me there, and I
Yeah.
want to say that for anybody that hasn't healed from miscarriage or has endured one and is wondering and those things, is like God is faithful to heal your heart and faithful to give you understanding and meet you in those like finite little details.
Walk through the process.
Yeah, because he knows what you need to know and understand and how you need to grieve and the process of it all. And it's different for every person.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that we get that kind of relationship with him where he can come in and just, and it had to be, for me, it had to be far into my
Yeah.
relationship with him, years,
Yeah.
almost a decade, pretty much a decade after my first. Then he said, okay, let's go there. And I trusted him enough to go into that spot that I had, like, I had guarded my heart and not talked about it and just kept it. And the Lord has healed it to now be able to talk about it. So,
man, so there's this other. I've heard this word used recently,
yes,
in a different context.
Mm.
And I thought it was really, it was intriguing to me. And I felt like, well, okay, so there have been a few messages that I've heard lately where the word miscarriage has been used, as in miscarrying the calling on your life, where we can possibly fail. We can not nourish and strengthen and maintain in a way where we miscarry the call of God.
Yes.
The message that he has given us to share.
That purpose.
And so with that, we want to slide into our devoted discussion,
which is talking about being a messenger.
Yeah.
Like with your message and his message.
When he was saying that, I was like, each time I've heard that, I was like, because they were men saying it. I was like, that might trigger a woman a little bit.
And I told her, I said that would have hit me a little bit.
And it, like, for me, I feel like I've kind of healed a bit and kind of processed that. Whereas but of course there was this little like, I don't know about that wording, but it's
also a true word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not used out of context.
Yeah.
It's totally not used out of context.
Yeah.
So we're going to go over there and be real with it, but we're not misstepping and misusing that word or trying to be trigger. No, not at all.
But
not at all. And you might have just been feeling heavy for all the people that maybe were.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. Okay.
So we know that each of us have a purpose here on this earth, and that we each of us have an assignment.
Yes.
We each have a mission, a message to bring, a ministry.
Yes. All the M's.
All
like
the M's.
We are called to be messengers of Christ. Like to bring the message everywhere we go of him, and then more.
Right.
We're not limited to that. But that's the initial.
The message of Christ. Yeah.
And then added, right? That's what would you say? How do you say it? How do you tell me? That's the obvious.
Oh, obviously. The obvious is the gospel.
Right.
But we each have an individual testimony to bring to it, right?
Yes, that is different for every single person.
Yeah.
And we mean every single person. For the person who thinks, I don't really have a message, my message isn't as powerful, it's not as strong, it's not as big. And
well, maybe you haven't talked to God enough to determine what that message is.
Right. But you have one.
So we just want to encourage you to get in a place with God and define what your message is that you need to be sharing.
Yeah. What avenues? So here we go. So when we're talking about the message, what's some of the struggles we have in sharing our message? I don't know. That's what just came to my mind. Maybe intimidation, maybe a little bit of expectation, maybe a little bit of nervousness and feeling like we have to have it all together, right, to share our message. But the truth is like God is working through you and giving you the strength and the ability to shine out of you to go share your message. And I think sometimes we try to do it in our own self,
Mm.
and we can't.
And well, the humbling thing is that most of the time, our messages, the message that we've been given to carry, comes from our mistakes.
Yeah.
It comes from, the pain that we have gone through.
They get imprinted. They're just imprinted on you.
So in our mistakes and in the miracles that we experience,
Through Christ.
these are the few things that really make up a good message.
Yeah.
Our messages are our mistakes and our miracles. So oftentimes, this is in direct correlation to the ministry that God has for us.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be in full-time ministry to have a ministry. You are called to minister with the message that you've been given.
Right.
So all of everything that I have accomplished ministry-wise, really, it goes down to the mistakes that I've made, and the miraculous way that God has shown up in those, and how I've been able to overcome them and see the victory of God in it all. And I've been able to express those. And I know that I'm not the only, everybody has that.
Sharing your mistake. Yeah.
You might not be sharing it the way I do. Obviously, we all share in our different ways, in our different capacities, in our different areas of influence.
Mm-hmm.
But we all are called to share and to to give the message, find our message, dig into our mistakes and our pain and our miraculous in the past, the way God has shown up and how he's showing up in your life right now. We defeat Satan by the
power of our testimony,
the word of God, and the power of our testimony.
Yeah.
And so that is how we can advance the kingdom, and that's what we're called to do. Jocelyn, you really have quite an amazing testimony. I love the way that you have shared about how the mistakes in your life have led you to meet God in a miraculous way. And that in turn has turned into quite the message that you bring.
The miracle of deliverance, which we've talked about before in this, to talk about deliverance. But yes, to be delivered from oppression and all the mistakes that I've made. I mean, I made a lot. I had 30 years of mistakes.
I have to bring up that even our forefathers make mistakes.
Yeah.
And mistakes are
and they're said to be to happen,
done to us or against us, and that open doors for oppression.
Yeah.
And so
to live a life with a lot of oppression, and then to be delivered over and over and over again for a period of time, a lot of deliverance. I remember when I first got delivered, that's when my mission really just clicked.
Yeah.
That was when I got rid of my Jezebel, and the things that she said to me during my deliverance really put a solidity in my heart. And God has, for those, it's been 2.5 years, well, almost, it's been 3 years. Okay. So he's put this solidity in my heart to just say, there it is. And then he's been refining it ever since, right? Because he takes your mission and he refines it to get it in line with his will. And so since then, I've been on a mission to take demons out.
To take out the demons.
Well, the oppression. And that's exactly what it is to help be hands and feet for the Lord, and surrender myself to that, to be used to break people free from oppression, to break people free from principalities that bog them down and hold them down and rob, steal, and kill their life, like they did for me. And I think in that space of getting my mission maintained and refined, and my ministry on my life really kind of fine-tuned, more also is also learning like the love, like the depth of love that is foundational. So, because you have to have all those foundations when
Yeah.
you've been put out on a mission field, right? You need to know what the foundations are. So, um, thank you for that, Christine, because it is true. And I don't think we all of a sudden just know, but we submit
Yeah.
ourselves to learn
Yep.
and to understand and let God kind of come over our heart and say, this is what I have for you. This isn't my only mission, but it is one of them.
Yeah.
And it is high on my
Main-
list.
Yeah. And for me, it was just when God really, you know what? He gave me a vision when I was 19 of this royal warrior,
Yeah.
and not really knowing to the capacity of what that really meant. And I mean, I remember just telling certain friends about it. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but and then as I grew and made so many mistakes and kind of lost my identity in the in some bondage and in life,
Yeah.
right? The dailies, when he really brought that back up and solidified in the process of all of my mistakes and miraculously coming in and meeting me and reminding me who I am in the kingdom, and the royal identity that his daughters carry and the authority that is on that. It really became a huge mission of mine. And then there was when my body broke
Yeah.
because of the mistakes I've made.
Mm-hmm.
And then the miraculous of learning and breaking free from lies and healing. It's just
Huge.
it's huge.
He lets that passion just be like so deep. And I think here's the other thing is we can't compare missions.
Yeah.
We can't compare messages. Her message is like, that is like, I watch her talk about royal warrior and I'm like, yeah, like I can't embody it. And I want to be as excited as she is, but I can't because she just stirs it, right? She stirs the knowledge, stirs the understanding, stirs it to like, oh, what is that? Like, I want to know more about being a royal warrior, right? And doesn't mean we're going to be neck and neck in passion, but she stirs something up in me to go, oh, there's a lot of power and a lot of authority that like we should be walking in on a different level than even what I have.
Right.
Which is fun.
Which is this iron sharpening iron, right?
Yes.
We are part of one body.
Yes.
And we need each other.
We do.
Because we need aspects of all of these other people messages that we need to hear.
It's the puzzle pieces.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
This divine story, the divine plan that God has, the kingdom that he's got set up where we all have a place in it. It's pretty sweet. Cool.
It is pretty cool. I love that. But I really feel like there's power in saying the miracles that you have seen and been witness to and walked through with the Lord, because he's a miracle maker. Like, that's a big M. That is one of the biggest M's, is he meets you in the midst of your misery. He meets you in the midst of your problems. He meets you in the midst of your desperation. And he will move miracles and mountains to take care of you.
Well, and children are miracles. It's just amazing when you think about what needs to go.
Oh gosh.
What needs to happen in order for, a baby to be even conceived.
Oh, I know.
It's a miracle that our earth is spinning the way it is. It's miraculous how he has created all of creation and the way all of the ecosystems go together. He's just miraculous the way he brings people together, and certain relationships that come to pass, and connections made, and moves that are circumstances that shift. And I don't know, there's like lists upon lists of things,
of miracles.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be messengers of that.
We do.
to share that and
Yeah.
to remind, because isn't it easy to forget, like, just the miracles we see just around us all the time?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It becomes normal.
Well, that's why, and the scripture constantly tells us, remember, remember.
Yes, that's very
remember.
good. Very good.
Because we are so quick to forget.
Yes.
We are so quick to forget. And if we are continually speaking the message, it's hard to forget too.
It is hard. And remember that it's not just one person. Like, you're a messenger, which is moving. You know what I mean? It's like he's giving me like an image of like a mail truck. It's continuously moving and repeatedly saying and going back and back and back. Like, you're continuously getting something, or
Yeah.
and I think we sometimes can get kind of trapped down in our message. Like, it just doesn't matter. It just, well, keep moving.
We have to maintain
Yeah.
our message and ourselves as the messenger. If we are called to share the message, to spread the message, to be a missionary.
Yeah. I was just thinking, we're all missionaries.
Then we need to be capable to carry the message. And if we don't maintain ourselves and our spirit and our relationship with God and those around us in our circumstances, if we're not maintaining and being responsible.
And maintain our mental health too.
Yeah. Our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, the relationships we're in. We're gonna miscarry the message.
It's true.
So
that's a very good point.
Maintain. We've got to maintain. We've got to remember the miracles and the mistakes and respond to the call on our lives.
And not miscarry it.
And he gives us all the strength we need to do it.
To pick it back up. Yeah.
And the guidance. Like we shared last week, if we just keep our eyes on him.
There we go.
The author and perfecter of our faith. He will give us all the wisdom we need, all the strength. Yep.
I love it.
Love it.
Love it. Thank you, Lord, for that. So I think today, thinking about it, if you can relate to anything, like, there was a lot in there. It's to pick back up your message and walk with the Lord and be the messenger and submit to the Lord and get in maintenance with whatever that looks like and get on the mission field of your ministry. That's a lot of M's.
Way to go. All right, you guys, have a great week as you consider all these wonderful M's. Mark your calendar for the next live. We're stoked to chat with you real time about all of these things. It's at 11:30 on the last Tuesday of every month. You could also find the last 3 lives that we did on our YouTube accounts, either at Buckets of Berries or at Mrs. Christine Janes. Be sure to like this video or podcast so it can reach more people. We would love it if you shared it. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Plus, make sure you're subscribed to keep up with all the goodness going on over here. Now, you can catch Jocelyn almost daily on the socials for buckets of great encouragement in little doses. Find her at Buckets of Berries, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You could also get your copy of Christine's Bible study curriculum, Crown and Sword, with the link in the show notes. Now, it's with so much gratitude that we pray that you will be filled with the knowledge of his will, bearing fruit and being strengthened with endurance and joy. Godspeed, friend.